Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhamman Sangham Namasami. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mindful Samadhi, my channel that I have running on YouTube. And as promised, this evening we'll do another question and answer session. Hopefully you guys tuned in to last night's video where I had a special guest, fellow noble monk friend of mine, Venerable Buddharakita Tero. He did a discussion on meditation in Sinhala. So hopefully you guys tuned in for that. It was probably a very knowledgeable session. Unfortunately, my Sinhala is not good enough to understand the whole moral of the topic of discussion, but yes, he's a very knowledgeable monk. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So I've got another, I think, 3 questions here. Looks like one of them's kind of like a double-loaded question, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, I hope you guys are all well and your practice is going good. Yeah, some news. I'm going to be teaching group meditation on Sundays now from 4 till 6. For the first couple of weeks, it'll just be the group and myself, and then after that I might start doing a Zoom kind of format and posting that online as well, so you guys can all join in. But yeah, give me a couple of weeks, all right? Little baby steps. Okay, so let's jump into the first question. So the first question is, hopefully the microphone's working. I haven't actually tested anything, but yeah, hopefully it's working okay. I have noticed that you have different guided meditation videos on each of them. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. I have noticed that you have different guided meditation videos, and each of them seem to focus on various aspects of the practice. You seem to cover a broad range of meditation techniques. I have 2 questions. Firstly, why do you have different styles? Wouldn't it be better to just focus on one? My other question is, what do you yourself practice? Question is, what do you yourself practice, and how do you see meditation from your standpoint? I hope this doesn't sound rude or too intrusive. Just curious on your outlook. Thanks in advance, Natalie. Not intrusive at all, Natalie. I think they're a couple of very good questions, and I'm more than happy to answer those for you. Okay, so I'll give you my honest outlook and my honest opinion on your questions. So firstly, the reason I have a few guided meditations on my channel, and each one is different from the next. There's a couple of reasons behind that, Natalie. The first is, I personally feel like meditation, especially in Theravada Buddhism, you can't have one without the other, and I don't want to just go down one road and show you guys one style of meditation. I feel personally that it's good for us to understand all aspects of the practice, and also people are different. We have varying minds, we have varying differences from person to person. So I believed at the time, me doing these different kinds of meditations and showing these different videos on my channel would just open up and broaden the spectrum. So then people can make their own decisions, or it gives people the option to go through them and try and see what suits them best, okay? So predominantly that is why we have different styles. So I've gone through samatha meditation. I did a video on kasinas. Kasinas is like looking at, it's like object meditation or looking at colors. Kasinas are mainly color-based. So that is a samatha meditation. Now samatha is basically it's like passaddhi, we call it, which is like tranquility meditation or one-pointedness meditation. So I figured that it was quite important to cover that. So that's why that one's up there. The other one is a anapanasati one, and then there's a body scanning one. Now those two practices, they are separate videos, but they kind of go hand in hand if you're going down the road of like Goenka kind of style retreat environments where you're doing a lot of anapanasati, which is mindfulness of breath or breathing. And there is also, that goes with that is the body scanning, okay, which is scanning the body from head to toe and then from the toe back up to the head. And that's a complete body scan. Now, the reason we do that is to understand the body, and that is one of the foundations of mindfulness. So there's 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, we call this Kayanapasana, and Kayanapasana is contemplation of the body. So doing the body scanning technique is getting us familiar with our body and all the different components and different parts of the body. And so when we start the practice, it's good to do the body scanning if you're going down that path or that style of meditation. And so you use anapanasati as your primary object of the breathing, the in and out breath, and then you do a body scan. And that is like the complete kind of style of the Goenkaji, to sum it up basically, of course. So that's why I've got those two. And then we have ones like labeling and noting. Now this is going down a different path. This is called insight meditation or vipassana. Now, these to me are all just labels, but vipassana or insight meditation is, we're looking into things like the 3 insights of like impermanence, understanding that everything's impermanent. We investigate this. We investigate suffering, dukkha, and then we investigate anatta, which is not self. So these 3 insights is essentially the practice of vipassana. So when we do the labeling and noting guided meditation video that I have on there, that's covering a method called the Mahasi method, which is a Burmese monk that lived, he's not with us now unfortunately, but he lived quite a while ago in Burma. And these sayadaws, there's a couple of different well-known ones. There's Pa Auk Sayadaw. He's famous for doing samatha meditation. And then you have Mahasi Sayadaw, and he was famous for vipassana meditation. And he sort of coined, as far as we're aware, he sort of was very well known for this labeling and noting method, which is essentially just having like a bare awareness or just like an awareness of the body, and just when anything arises, we're just labeling them and we're noting them, you know. So for an example, you might hear a sound when you're sitting doing your meditation practice, and you'll shift your attention. So the same thing, we have a primary object or primary target. In the way Mahasi kind of teaches it in his books, Manual of Insight, he's got a few books, but the way he sort of does his practice, he teaches you to focus on the abdomen, so abdominal breathing, and just being aware of the inhale and exhale, and noticing how we have this rising, falling sensation of the abdomen. So what essentially we need to be doing is focusing and using that as our primary object. Some of us, of course, do anapanasati and use the breath, and you can incorporate the two together. But essentially doing, observing the abdomen and rising and falling, this is the external observation, And again, this is covering the first foundation of mindfulness. This is contemplation of the body, essentially. Now, when something arises, like you hear a sound, what we do is we shift our attention from our rising and falling of the abdomen, and then we label hearing, or sound, and then we revert back to the rising and falling. And then you might have some sensation like a pain or tingling, or perhaps some numbness throughout the body somewhere. If you're a beginner, generally it might be your knees or your legs or your ankles or something. And then we'll shift our attention from the primary rising and falling, and we just gently shift our awareness down to the area which is causing us, if it's pain or if it's aching or tingling or numbness, and then we just label that, whatever it may be, and then go back to our awareness. So that is to sum up the labeling and noting meditation technique I've got on there. So what other ones have we got? I did metta meditation. Metta meditation is, I kind of class it like a manifestation, we're bringing in good energy into ourselves, and then we're expanding that out to the universe as well. So metta meditation, I learned this technique from a man called Bhante Ji, or Bhante Gunaratana. I read several books on loving kindness and metta meditation, and I found that Bhante Gunaratana's books on that particular topic, I found them to be the most prominent and efficient or effective for my practice. So I learned meditation technique from that particular man, and he's actually he's still alive. He resides in I think it's in Virginia, maybe West Virginia, or in America. He has a monastery over there, and he's close to 100 years old. He's a very famous Sri Lankan monk, and I have a lot of respect for him. I still watch some of his Dharma sermons from time to time. But the metta meditation technique is essentially what we're doing there is we're putting love and kindness firstly onto ourselves and learning to love ourselves and this body, and just learn, you can't learn to love anything else until you learn to love yourself. So there's specific techniques and different ways that we can do this. And then once you do that, we want to radiate this love that we've manifested within ourselves. We want to then radiate that to, people around us, close friends, and, family members, and perhaps neighbors and things like that. We want to radiate that loving kindness to them. And then also we want to radiate that loving kindness to all beings and creatures, so animals and literally anything. And then at the end, we want to also radiate loving kindness to the entire universe. So everything and everyone, be it plants, animals, insects, ghosts, whatever it may be, and we want to radiate and just, have love, kindness, compassion, altruism, and equanimity for all beings. And that is metta meditation. Again, I'm summarizing all these things relatively fast. I don't want to stay on the topic too long, and also the videos are there themselves for you to check out, okay? I'm just giving you guys a quick guide on, or Natalie, I'm giving you a quick guide on the reason why I'm doing different videos is essentially we need these videos in different times in our life. And I'm a person that doesn't think one is right and one is wrong. I like to diversify and have a broad understanding of all the practices. Okay, so when I was in Sri Lanka, I went to a Vipassana, intensive Vipassana place for 2 weeks. I stayed there in the forest, and then I went and spent 2 weeks in a samatha retreat, also deep in the forest. And they're both very, very famous, well-known monasteries in Sri Lanka. They're known throughout the world. They're very highly renowned places. And so I spent a couple of weeks in each one of those, amongst some other places around Sri Lanka. And my experience personally, I discovered that they both had their benefits. I'm not leaning to one and not the other. I was practicing Vipassana meditation for most of my meditation, career is not the right word, but meditation lifespan so far. It was a lot of Vipassana driven. But then I started understanding both modalities, the Samatha and the Vipassana, at a deeper level. So that's why when I did this channel, Mindful Samadhi, I gave you guys a diverse range of videos, which I incorporated into the channel. Now, the second part of your question, Natalie, was, what do you yourself practice and how do you see meditation from your standpoint? Okay, so the thing is, Natalie, is over the years, like I started practicing meditation approximately 12 years ago. I didn't take it seriously until about 7 years ago, and then really seriously, like 3 hours a day seriously, about 5 years ago. So all in all, it was probably 12 years where I've been interested and started the practice. And I started not really understanding Buddhist meditation, not really understanding Hindu, not really understanding Kundalini, not really understanding Zen, but having a basic enough understanding that I could incorporate them and learn slowly, very slowly at the time back then, how to do these meditations. So I started off doing like just sitting there cross-legged, and I would just sit there with my eyes closed and I would just try and relax. At the time I thought meditation was a way, like a little secret pill for just learning how to relax and de-stress, basically. So I wasn't really on any path. Then I started reading books on Kriya Yoga, reading Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi book several times. Then I started delving into Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, read the Bhagavad Gita. So I was definitely leaning into the Hindu kind of basis in my practice. And then started looking in, things started happening in my practice on my spine region, some very, very powerful things that were very unexplainable, and even Google couldn't help me at the time. And later I found, again, I don't like to label anything, but I think if I was to put a word to it, I think it was some form of Kundalini or chakra meditation that I was doing. And I was having some very powerful vibrations and very powerful experiences in general happening to me. And that is when I went to investigate online, and I went through a lot of books, reading books, and I didn't really get any answers that were helping or guiding me. And that's when I started looking into Buddhism. And then I quickly discovered, after reading some books, not suttas or anything, I was reading more just biographies on monks, and I was looking into forest traditions, like I was looking into the Thai forest tradition, I was looking at Sri Lankan monks, and I was looking at Burmese monks and various monks. And then I discovered that these guys definitely have a lot more experience, and so I decided to follow those. And then I went into the Buddhist path, so to speak. And that's when I started delving into things. I got myself a teacher, very good teacher at the time, and he was teaching me Vipassana techniques, and I was also, at the time, I was also practicing staring at candle flames and doing things like this. Those ideas I got from watching movies in the early 90s and stuff, like Karate Kid and all this stuff. So got into bonsais and all this, as we do. We're following these different paths and trying to find out what we need to be doing. So to get back to your question, after just a brief introduction there, basically I look at meditation nowadays I look at meditation, and I don't like to look at Vipassana or Samatha or Zen or this or that, or Vajrayana or Mahayana or this and this, because I think, this is just my personal opinion, but I think when we label things in the sense where, for example, we're humans and we look at something and we could say, I just looked out the window and seen a car go past. We look at a car and then instantly we have a notion of what the car is and what it's doing and what its description is, what it does. It gets us from A to B. It's got 4 wheels. It's colored red. It's a SUV, or it might be a coupe, or it might be, a wagon, or it might be a 4-wheel drive. It's got off-road tires, or that one's jacked up kind of thing. It's got a lift kit to it, or that one's got it's a V8, and it's got this exhaust, a hot dog exhaust or whatever. And as you can see, just labeling, we've created such chaos in our mind, when essentially just look at it and just think car. Now, what I mean by this is when we say, I'm a meditator, and then someone goes, oh, what do you practice? Instantly, we've created a bit of a problem, in my opinion, because what we're doing is we're categorizing and putting ourselves into a category. And I don't think Lord Buddha himself wanted this to be like this, I don't think Buddha was like, oh, what do you do? I'm a Vipassana meditation. What do you do? I'm a Samatha meditator. I don't think it's like this, There's suttas that specifically angle things in the direction that I'm speaking now. Now, this is very debatable, and I'll have listeners probably listening and screaming and pulling their hair out. But this is my opinion. We shouldn't be labeling, I'm a Samatha practitioner, I'm a Vipassana practitioner, because what we're doing is we're categorizing, he's a Vipassana, he's doing Satipatthana Sutta, he's studying 4 foundations of mindfulness, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing walking meditation, he's doing the scanning, he's doing the labeling, noseling. He must be doing, do you do Mahasi Sayadaw method, or what kind of Vipassana do you do? This is where we have a problem. We love to complicate things as humans, or it could be, for example, we do Samatha meditation. He's just staring at something for hours on end, or he's staring at a wall, or he's staring at a candle, or he's doing kasanas. He's just staring at the color red for hours on end. He's doing jhana meditation. He's just trying to enter jhanas. And then you have the Vipassana guy saying, you don't need to do this. You can enter jhanas by doing Vipassana. You don't need to do Samatha. And he's doing the Pa-Auk method. And do you see what I mean? We're creating such chaos in our minds, and we're creating this almost like this world in our mind of how we perceive something. We're creating a perception, essentially, and we're labeling things and putting people and things into categories. I think this is wrong. I think this is completely wrong. I have done both, and I honestly don't even think we should be labeling Samatha and Vipassana. Let's just call it meditation, or Buddhist meditation, or Dharmic meditation. Let's leave it at that. That's what I feel, and that's why when I have all these diverse videos and I'm doing this and this and this is for the vaster, broader audience. Me in particular, I'm not really going down either path. I do meditation and I follow what the Buddha teaches, and I try and find the most ancient scriptures as I possibly can, as this is very difficult. But me, I'm a human being. I have my own mind, my own thoughts, and my own body. So I don't try and follow the herd of sheep, so to speak. I'm a bit like a wolf in the respect where I like to go alone and I like to follow things. But Lord Buddha and the Dharma is my practice, and that is what I practice. Okay? So let me try and explain a little bit what I mean. So there's a saying, Samatha Vipassana Yuganada. or yuganada. So what this means in English, it means yoked together. This is coming directly from Lord Buddha himself. It's not me making it up, okay? Now, there's a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, okay? Anguttara Nikaya. And it is actually called the Yuganada Sutta, okay? Now, in that sutta, the Buddha mentions bhikkhus. A bhikkhu has developed samatha and developed vipassana together. So, in the Dharma, it is literally saying what I've just mentioned. It's not one or the other. We need to unite and unify these two together and form samatha and vipassana as one. Unite them both together. Because you can't have one without the other. This is one of the laws of the universe. What goes up must go down. You know, you can't have happiness without sadness. You can't have, do you know what I'm saying? Like yin and yang, if you're in China. There's different ways to look at it. But you can't have one without the other. You can't just have a happy and great life without suffering. Like the Buddha speaks of this. So for me, the way I look at it, in meditation, you cannot have samatha without vipassana. And you cannot have vipassana without samatha. Now, moving on, there's another sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, and this is called the Mahasala Yatanika Sutta. Okay? Now, in this sutta, it says, one who has samatha but not vipassana knows only the escape from sensual pleasures, but not from higher fetters. Okay, so let that sink in for a minute. Okay? Interesting, isn't it? It's exactly what I'm just saying. You can't have one without the other. All right? One who has vipassana but not samatha sees the dharmas, but one does not dwell in place. But when both are developed, one is fully liberated. Okay? That's from the Majjhima Nikaya. Now, these are suttas that the Buddha has laid out for us. So let's not have a biased opinion on, I'm a vipassana practitioner, I'm a samatha practitioner. I think this is crazy, okay? So hopefully that explains a bit of my standpoint in the way I look at meditation and practice this day and age. Natalie, I'd also like to say, you know, I like reading a lot of books, okay? I'm a bit of a bookworm and I like reading meditation books, okay? Because I love doing meditation and I want to learn as much as possible. So reading suttas is one thing, but I also like to get knowledge from people that have gone through the hard yards, so to speak, and their own discipline, and they've gone through turmoil and they've gone through all sorts of different stages in their practice, and they've lived and they've died. So I'm talking about monks that have lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way up to the late 90s. And I'm reading books on these monks. So I'm reading a lot of Thai tradition, Thai forest tradition, not Ajahn Chah, Ajahn Brahm. Obviously, they're very good practitioners. But I'm going back further. I'm going back to Ajahn Mun, who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Ajahn Mun. There's a monk called Ajahn Lee. These Ajahn Mahabua, these monks, these Thai forest monks, I find a wealth of knowledge with them. I also find a wealth of knowledge with other Sri Lankan monks, Burmese monks, Mahasi Sayadaw, Pa Auk Sayadaw, and also Webu Sayadaw. There's so many people that we can gather and garner information from. So this is where I'm learning, and this is where I develop and understand my practice. So when I do my practice, I'm doing practice from the Buddha and from books that I'm reading all about Buddhist meditation. I also read into some Vajrayana and Mahayana, but predominantly I stick with Theravada Buddhism because I'm a Theravada monk. And I find that the knowledge I get from Theravada monks is extremely informative for me and for my practice. So if you're trying to get a question out of me, are you a Vipassana or a Samatha meditation practitioner? I'm neither, okay? I'm neither. I do my practice based on what I've learned and reading the Dharma. The Buddha is my teacher, okay? So I'm not one side of the fence, and I'm not the other side of the fence. I used to be. I used to say I was a Vipassana insight meditator. For years I was doing that. And then I stopped labeling myself completely because it was causing problems in my practice, and it was actually narrowing my practice and limiting my practice. And I realized where my problem lied, so I started to have a bit of a different outlook, okay? So reading a lot of books and doing things like that, and I try and find, again, my personal opinion, I try and find things that I feel like is the most oldest teachings of the Buddha. So the Sutta Nipata, I find is very valuable for me because we don't know for sure because we weren't around 3,500 or 600 years ago. But we have instincts, and we can have a look and we can investigate. So when I read the Sutta Nipata, it feels authentic. It feels like it's coming directly from the Buddha and from Sariputta, Moggallana, and from Ananda, and from these monks that were following around in the Buddha's footsteps. I believe these feel authentic to me. I'm not saying the other Nikayas, they're also perfectly fine. I read those as well, trust me. They're all very good, but I find reading things that are very old and ancient very good. Now, we like to, we're humans and we like to make things difficult. So I also see monks and stuff talking very heavily about the Abhidharma. The Abhidharma this, the Abhidharma that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But what we need to understand, again, like research-wise, the Abhidharma was written after the Buddha passed away, centuries later. Okay? Now, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination the Abhidharma is wrong. I don't think that's the case at all. But I think if we can go back to the oldest scriptures as we possibly can and have a look, most of this information that we need for our practice is there. We don't need to overcomplicate it. We have the Anapanasati Sutta. We have the Mahasatipatthana or the Satipatthana Sutta. We, have 4 foundations of mindfulness, Kayanapasana, Vedanopasana, Chittanopasana, Dhammaupasana, contemplation of body, feelings, the mind and mental objects. Like, we have the 7 factors of enlightenment. We have the 5 spiritual faculties. We have the 5 hindrances. We have the 6 sense bases. And we have the 4 great elements, which the Abhidharma goes right into. They delve into elements and understanding this, and the earth and the wind element and the fire element and everything. This is done in scriptures before the Abhidharma, so it's all written there. Essentially, if you go into it deep, there's like 6 of them. There's not 4. We have also space and consciousness as well. So it's our perception and how we perceive things. Again, I'm not saying the Abhidharma is wrong. I'm just saying humans are complex beings and we like to overcomplicate things. Sometimes it's not necessary, okay? The scriptures the Buddha's laid out for us are there. Anapanasati, Satipatthana Sutta, 4 foundations of mindfulness, 7 factors of enlightenment, the spiritual faculties, the hindrances. These are the things that they're the tools that we need for our practice. For Vipassana, for Samatha, for wherever what you want to label it, that is what we need for our practice. Okay? So hopefully, Natalie, that answers your question. I've definitely gone into a lot of detail. But yeah, hopefully that helps you guys. So let's go to we'll make this one the last question. I've got a couple here, but we'll just go into this one because that was quite long-winded, that answer that I gave you guys. Sorry if it was a bit boring. So this question here, good day to you, Bante. I have a family question I hope you could help with. My mother recently got diagnosed with Parkinson's disorder, and I have had to become her carer. I am fortunate enough to have been able to discontinue with my job and care for her full time. However, I'm finding this increasingly difficult, Bante. My mother is not coping well and is taking her frustrations out on me. It seems like no matter what I do, Mum becomes demanding and yells at me for the smallest of things. Can you give me some advice on how I can deal with this without feeling anger towards her? I can try. No. Look, I'm sorry to hear, firstly, I'm sorry to hear about your mum obtaining Parkinson's. That's not really a good disease. As far as I'm aware, Parkinson's is when you get the jitters, I think, or the shakes constantly. So that's not a very nice thing to have. My condolences. However, there's a few ways you can look at this. You haven't left your name here. That's okay. There's a few ways that you can look at this. So props to you for looking after your mum and stopping your job to work to help her full time. This is a very, very good, admirable thing you're doing as a daughter. So yes, keep it up. It's good. Now, the way we can look at this, there's a few different ways. So what we need to understand is, you know, life is short. Life doesn't go on for a long time. Some people, seemingly it feels like a long time, some people it's not. But in the whole spectrum of it all, we don't live for an awful long time. And we are all prone to 4 things in this life: birth, age, sickness, and death. Okay? No matter who you are, we're all going to have these 4 things happen to us. Okay? Once we're born, we're definitely, inevitably going to die at some stage or another. Okay? Sorry to sound dramatic, but it's just a fact of life. Aging is a naturally occurring thing. This happens to everything. It happens to animals. It happens to objects that we perceive with our eyes. It happens to trees and plants and nature and everything. Everything is going to age. This is what the Buddha's taught us. Okay? Sickness is something that happens to all of us, if we like it or not. You know, you have some people say, I never get sick. Trust me, you will get sick one day. Everybody gets sick. Now, when you get older and you start aging, sickness becomes more prominent, doesn't it? It's a natural thing. Once the body starts aging, things don't work as efficient as they used to. And facing this reality sometimes is difficult for more people and not difficult for others. But for the majority, I would say it's a difficult thing to deal with, because we need to accept the fact that we're getting old and one day we're all going to die. So once we get to this aging process and we finish our teenage years and our young adolescent years, for the majority, some people have unexpected occurrences where they pass away earlier, they have suicide and all these different varying factors. But sickness is definitely something, it's inevitable. Now, you can call sickness a common flu, the cold, these symptoms that we have, viruses, there's many forms of sickness, but when we age, we're going to get these kinds of sicknesses that are a little bit more prolific. Now, Parkinson's is, I think it's disorder or disease. Either way, it's dis-ease. It's not good, is it? So this affects I think it affects our neurons or our motor neurons functioning. I'm not sure, I'm not a doctor, but it definitely affects us in a sense where it's definitely not pleasant, especially when you've lived a life without Parkinson's and then all of a sudden you get Parkinson's. So what this is going to create in your mother's mind and her thought process is not very nice, is it? It's not a positive thing, and she's going to be going through some traumatic experiences in her thought process. Obviously, physically, her body as well. But she was used to functioning perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden this has steered in her direction, and she's got Parkinson's. So we need to understand, or as her carer, understand that she's going through emotional turmoil and struggle and difficulty. Now, what we can do as people is have compassion, okay? We need to have compassion, a compassionate mind, and understand that we need to go through these. People are going through ordeals, and you're being her carer and taking care of her is a very good thing to do, a very meritorious deed, especially for a daughter. Now, on your side of the things, so she's going through traumatic mental emotions, right? On your side of the case, you're looking after her, you're taking care of her, you're dealing with her needs, her wants and desires, and all these other things. I'm assuming bathing and all sorts of things, clothing or whatever it may be. You're going above and beyond. Now, you're creating dilemmas in your mind because you're going out of your way to do these things. You're wanting some form of compensation in this thing, like, at least a thank you would be nice, or I wish you would just understand what I'm doing for you, or something like this. Now, the reason we think like this and we don't have compassion, I'm sure you have some compassion, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to paint you in a bad shade of light here. I'm just trying to explain something. So compassion, I'm sure you have compassion, but at a deeper level, we need to understand when we label ourselves. So we have a thing called anatta. When you start practicing meditation, it's understanding not self. This body of ours is temporary. It's just a vessel that we're using in this lifetime. It's not ours, we don't own it, but we like to claim that we do, and we like to attach an I, a me, a this, and when we do that, what comes with that is emotions, okay? So when we have emotions attached to I wanted this, or me, or why don't you see my opinion, when you have these attachments of the self, when we label and understand that this is mine, this is I wish, or me and me, we create emotions, and then these emotions will eventually, inevitably, create suffering, okay? So what's happening is you're creating suffering in yourself because you just want that bit of attention and appreciation from your mother, who's going through a traumatic experience and finding it very difficult to deal with. You're tending to her needs and wants and things like this, and she's not giving you anything but a hard time, okay? We need to understand why she's giving you a hard time, because she's going through a tumultuous situation. She's got this burden of Parkinson's disorder to deal with, and she's not coping very well. What you can do as a person is rise above and just understand, giving a loving kindness and compassion and altruistic joy and equanimity. We call these the 4 Brahma Viharas, or the 4 divine abidings, okay? Having these 4 attributes and having them as selfless. No self. Don't attach to me, I, and this, and purely do these good deeds out of pure loving kindness and compassion. And also, it is your mother. And understand, on top of all that, all of us are aging, and one day we'll all get old, and we'll all potentially get some form of sickness, and we could potentially be, or more than likely, inevitably, we'll be in a similar situation one day, okay? So we're not at that stage yet, but it will happen, okay? So we need to have compassion and understand this happens to everybody, and give her loving kindness. And when she gives you a hard time, or she's short with you or difficult with you, just understand that she's going through a difficult time. And at the moment, hopefully, I'm not sure, but you're healthy. I'm not sure, again, it doesn't say here, but hopefully you're in a fit enough, stable condition where you can take care of her needs and things, and you can cook and clean and, take care of her. So just understand and try and have a mindset that, have compassion and don't expect anything in return. Don't expect a thank you. Just do it purely out of the love of your heart. Okay? And doing this is going to not only bring you an amazing amount of karma and good merit and good fortune, this is also going to grow and develop yourself into such a strong, individual, loving, kind, compassionate person. Okay? Hopefully that's answered your question. I understand it must be difficult, especially watching your mother go through something like this, but just understand the nature of reality, okay? We're all subject to birth, age, sickness, and death. They're just stages, 4 stages, and the sickness, aging and sickness is a stage, okay? Luckily, as her carer, hopefully you're not in that stage and you're able to take care of her, so just give her loving kindness and compassion and don't expect anything in return, and meditate on not self, okay? No self. There is no I, there is no me. You are just a beautiful, gentle-natured person that is here to help any being in the world, okay? Another suggestion, one more suggestion, is we have a sutta in Theravada Buddhism called the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Karaniya Metta Sutta. You can find that sutta in the Sutta Nipata, and Karaniya Metta Sutta is a sutta on loving kindness. And it mentions in that, even as a mother protects her child with her life, and it goes on to say it's basically about loving kindness and understanding this deep sense of compassion. And we need to have loving kindness for all beings, great, small, far and wide. We need to have this love and this abundance, okay? So I suggest reading the Karaniya Metta Sutta. You can Google it if you go online, and there's a couple of places. There's called accesstoinsight.com and another one called Sutta Central. If you type in there Metta Sutta, I don't even think you have to put Karaniya Metta Sutta. If you just put Metta Sutta, it will come up, and then you can read it. And it's a beautiful sutta. There was a stage I would read that twice a day, every single day, and it brought so much love into my life that I was lacking at the time, and also compassion and altruism and equanimity. So have a look at that, and hopefully that will help, okay? Yeah, I think that's enough for this evening. There's a couple more there, but they're all long-winded questions, so I think we'll save that till next week, okay? I might do an unguided meditation, possibly, what day is it today? Is it Friday? It's Thursday today. Yeah, maybe tomorrow I might do an unguided meditation session. I'm not sure yet, don't hold me to it. But this video, I will bring out another question and answers. And next week again, we'll continue on because I still have quite a few questions to get to. Okay, so that's all for this evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. If you'd like to like and subscribe the video, by all means do so. Share with your friends and family. It's entirely up to you. I'm not bothered. I'm just doing this purely out of my love and kindness for meditation. And I really want to teach as many Western people and people around the world for that matter, meditation and Buddhism. That is my job, and that is what I'd like to do. So thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. Wishing you all loving kindness and compassion. Until next time, Namo Buddhaya, Sadhu Sadhu, and as we would say in Sri Lanka, Terawan Sarnai.